you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting from New York, upstate near the Great Lakes. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're live on the Fringe FM. You can call in tonight at 1-800-588-0335. You can join our chat room by going to thefringe.fm/chat room. That's our Discord server. And tonight we're going to be delving into the mind and manifestation with Daniel Olexa as our guest tonight. The show's here for you 5 nights a week, 9 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. I got to tell you, it's been a little different being on the Eastern time, which means I got to start the show at midnight, which is kind of cool. I can't help it. I can't help how cool that is. I always kind of wanted to start a show at midnight. And it's cool that we're here with Ryan Gable, too. He's here. He's downstairs. He's probably sleeping. But we're going to do a show tomorrow together, I think. And so, yeah, I'm just telling you guys, it's really a beautiful country up here. And look, if you want to support the show, you can. You can go to patreon.com/LTV radio. That's the people that make it happen. And, yeah, I really appreciate all you guys' support. I actually lost some supporters because I moved to New York. I don't know, that was kind of strange, but I don't usually like question that kind of stuff. I guess they got their reasons, but that was a little weird. But then we gained a few new supporters. So it's all in faith, right? And we just got to keep on going, man. We got to keep this thing rolling. Explore consciousness. That's what we're all about. Now, earlier, I told my new neighbors here that what I did, and I actually told them why, which all you guys know why. You know why I did this. You know why I started the show. It was because of the out-of-body experience I had where my paradigm got shifted and changed. And it was funny listening to them. Like, they really couldn't believe what I was telling them, but actually were open to it. So the people up here are really cool, too. Just letting you know. All right, let's see, announcements. Don't really have any right now, but I do got something pretty cool coming up. God, I know it's going to happen. I just don't want to say it until we get... It's going to be an event. I'll just say that. And I just don't want to release it yet until we have the official schedule, and then we'll release it, all right? So let's get into this. Daniel Olexa is here with us, and he's been drawn to the powers of the mind for his entire life. And after realizing his passion for helping others to improve their lives and his natural ability at problem solving, Daniel left the corporate world and began his studies in hypnotherapy. And after completing 500 hours of training at the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy in Tampa, Florida, he opened his first practice in Naples, Florida, and he continues to empower others around the world to realize their strengths, discover the flow, and reinvent their lives. From his current office in Los Angeles, California, you can go to the website at danielolexa.com. That's Olexa, danielolexa.com. Daniel, thanks for coming on the show, man. It's good to have you.
It's great to be here, Joe. Thank you.
What in the world made you make that jump? That's a difficult thing, right? To jump from the corporate world and go into exploring like consciousness in the mind and all that stuff. That's
it is
big jump
to go from making a good six figures in a Midwestern city where six figures actually means something to just walking away from it all because it's soul sucking and mind numbing. It really was a confrontation in myself and in my mind, and that place of confronting limiting beliefs that hold us back now that I do that for everyone else.
You know, I often think a lot of people wonder how to do that. You know, people ask me how do I do that, or how did I do that, or whatever, and I don't know what to tell them. I have no idea how to tell them to do those types of things, honestly. You know?
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
What I found for me was part of it was I didn't have a choice. I had a choice, but I put myself where I didn't want to have a choice. That my wife and I, that time we were dating, were moving from Kansas City down to Naples on a job change. And even if I didn't, let's put it this way, even if I wasn't burned out what I was doing in Kansas City, it didn't exist where we were moving in Naples. So I had to reinvent. So I put myself into this position of having to reinvent. And then it was one of those really interesting sets of circumstances where I had just finished seeing a hypnotherapist in Kansas City to try and get my mojo, my confidence back after going through a divorce and being at this job that was draining me. So it was kind of top of mind. And as we were moving Sarah down to Florida, she moved down 30 days before I did, so I could get the houses together. We were talking about it in the car on the first day, and like, I'm kind of thinking about hypnotherapy. And she said to me, check it out, see what's available for training. And that night I jumped online. There at the time, there was only one school in Florida teaching a state certified 500-hour program. And of course, campuses in Tampa, Orlando, St. Pete, Miami, and Naples. And it was one of those shut up and take my money moments. I know where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah. Right. Well, that was like, did you have like an intuitive hit on that where you had to be intuitive, like just follow your intuition basically? Right.
Yeah. I had to get out of my own way and just go with the flow on that one.
Huh. See, that's the strange part. Like, I don't think we listen to that very much, honestly.
We're trained not to. Really, I think we are trained not to. And it's not that I'm saying parenting is that parents do things incorrectly, but so many times we're told as children not to follow our instincts, but do what we're told instead. And we get to a place where we really just don't honor those instincts anymore.
Yeah. That really is true, man. Give me 1 second here. I think we had a little glitch where we dropped off the network. That happened. That's been happening like crazy here lately. I have no idea why that's been happening, but it's really annoying, honestly. I
understand.
There's some kind of like solar thing going on too that I've been hearing about or something, but we've had some internet issues here since we did the move. But basically, when you guys missed a few minutes there that we were talking, and he's talking about like when he made that jump, and you said it's the programming for sure. Like isn't that the problem with everything that we have, like this programming? I mean, that's basically it. All our problems is our programming, isn't it?
It is. It's all the stories we tell about who we are and what we believe, and this cultural soup that we grow up in that we tend not to question because we assume it's fact that's always been there. rather than really saying, what exactly do I believe about my life and what I'm deserving of, and where did I come to that? Because I came into this life as a blank slate. So how do I know what I know, and why do I believe what I believe?
Yeah, right. Honestly, a lot of people say, well, I commend you for doing what you're doing and this and that. But you know what, man? It was really when I started having panic attacks. That's a clear sign when something's up. Something's not right, and the panic attacks caused me to dig into that. And then I realized, you know what? We should never stop following our dreams and intuition. That's what makes us happy, truly happy.
It truly guides us forward.
And you wrote a book about like practical manifesting, which I think is cool. Overcome fear, realizing the truth, and create the life you were meant to live. Why do you think so many people have that, I don't know, that issue of trying to figure out what they were meant to do?
I think particularly in the US, it's because we're told to chase the money. That the benchmark for success in this country is money, rather than doing the thing you love. And part of what really opened me up to this process back when I was getting ready to leave corporate, or thinking I was leaving corporate, that the idea was even there. I'm at this job where I'm miserable. And as I'm reading, I tend to read like 2 books at a time. In 2 different books on entirely different topics, I come across the same idea. And it's out of blue zones, which are the 4 or 5 areas in the world where people live to be over 100 and healthy, the way U.S. citizens are healthy at 40 and 50 and maybe 60. And one of the unique concepts out of one of those areas is out of Okinawa. The Okinawans do not have a word for retirement in their language, but they do have a word that I believe is pronounced ikigai, that roughly translates to the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. And it's all about living with purpose. You get up, have a purpose for the day, have a purpose for the life. And we, instead of putting our purpose that brings us joy in front, we put our purpose as chasing money that seems to maybe always be slightly out of our reach because we're chasing it.
Yeah. And then how much is enough at that point, right? That's another thing too. It's like, oh man, I want to make 100,000. Then you get to 100,000. I want to make 200,000. Then you buy a $200,000 house. And like, oh man, now I got to make 300,000. Like, when does it get enough?
Yeah. And then we make excuses for working miserable jobs because we have to keep up with the trappings that are all external validations that really don't mean a lot. That's all for other people.
So would you say that what is the biggest thing that keeps people from realizing, other than chasing the money? Is it like in the title where you have overcome fear? To me, that's like the biggest one. And it's the hardest one for a lot of people. I think it's the hardest one for everybody, really. Overcoming fear.
It is. And there's one more piece to it that I think, if I were to boil my work as a hypnotherapist and as a coach down to one topic, at the very core of it, it's people have a weakened sense of self-worth and self-deservedness.
Right.
And it's all then externally validated. So we get in this place of where the fear becomes the driver, that I can't do something. I can't go do that other thing because I won't make enough money, rather than stepping into, if I'm making this much money now, I know I can figure out how to do it in another way and step past the fear into the possibility.
But I've tried that, honestly, and it just seems like I go around in circles. Like if
Tell me about going in circles.
Well, what I mean by that is, it's like I always wanted to do what I wanted to do, like as follow my dream, right? If it wasn't acting, it was something else. Before I found out it was podcasting and radio, and I got a job working in tech support, tier 2 tech support. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this like every night. I don't want to just do like one show a week. I want to do it every night, just like Art Bell did, but I can't because I got this job. But if I make enough money, I think I could quit. So I was like, I'm going to work this side job. I'm going to work side jobs. So what I actually did was replace, instead of working on the radio show 5 nights a week, I'd go home and work on side jobs on the computer, which basically is what I'd be doing the radio show with anyways, and trying to make this extra money but it just seemed, I guess when I say going in circles, it just seemed like nothing changed. And I can't explain it because I really wasn't taking on any more debt or anything like that. It's just like stuff would happen, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's funny. That's one of the things that I talk to clients about a lot. And as you're saying that, I'm hearing the phrase waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes.
Like
right.
I'm getting ahead, and now, oh yeah, this bill just came in.
Or an emergency yeah. Right.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, that's all a story we tell ourselves.
Is it?
That there is no other shoe, and there never has been.
They're two
completely unrelated events that we experience in our life. And I'll use the examples that I use when I'm teaching students. That, I get a bonus at work, and let's say it's $5,000, and a week or two later, the engine blows up in the car, and it costs me $47.50 to get a new engine put in.
Right.
And there's this, we get indoctrinated into this shaming story of that there's this punishing God out there, or this punishing element to the universe that says, oh, you know what, that reward you just got, we're going to make sure that the tables are evened, and we're going to burn you for it. Rather than, and it's a story of construction. Why do we feel that we are less than and abused by the universe when we are children of the universe and part of it, not apart from it?
Yeah.
That if I come at it that it's a loving God or a loving source or a loving universe, and the core of the universe is this sense of loving compassion that has my back, it knew long before the engine blew up in the car that it was coming. Why do I have a hard time telling myself the story that I was given that advance so that I wouldn't have to go into debt or find other struggle? And that really becomes a shift in the story we tell ourselves about what do I deserve? And also start looking for those things that are going right, but we tend not to focus on them because we're constantly looking for this struggle and abuse. Life has to be hard. No,
right.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. So I heard this phrase, like people say, life is a pretty good phrase, right? Like life is happening for me, not to me. Right. And right. And man, I'm really being tested with that, to be honest with you. Like, I really feel like, well, I mean, just like personally being tested with that. It seems like when I make a leap and I feel like everything's going good, something happens. Like, it could be personal. I'll just say that. Emotionally disruptive. And then but I just kind of look at it as, I really do look at it now. I didn't used to. But I think a lot of people are going through changes, and I am too. But I look at it now like, okay, well, this is just like another test, maybe, that I just need to say, I know who's in charge. It's like my dad used to tell me when I was little, right? I'd say, Dad, aren't you scared of this? And aren't you worried about that? And he'd be like, I know who's in charge, son. I'll be all right, And that is actually a good story to tell yourself. That is a good narrative to tell yourself. Because if you know you're going to be okay and something does have your back, then life's happening for you, not to you, kind of right.
Yeah, and I even shift that in languaging the phrase life is happening to me. I shift it to I'm happening to life, and be even more proactive about it.
Yeah,
right. Either of the other phrases are passive in language of it's happening for, I am taking action, and I'm going to go happen to life. And that the idea that who's in charge and knowing who's in charge is a powerful place, because we make the choice to align into that. And at any point in time, there's good and bad things going on all around us, but we tend to focus into the things that aren't going right. And what you were sharing about you step into that new phase and these tests come along. There's a concept, I've run across it a number of times. I've experienced it too. I know exactly what you're talking about. You take a step toward that goal and it feels like everything's great. And then this big challenge comes in your face saying, yeah, hold a minute. And that's the way I look at it now. And some of the other readings I've done on it, it's like the universe testing you to see just how committed you are toward that goal. Or are you going to fall back into the old story?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've actually went outside once. I'll admit this, and kind of looked up at the sky and was like, listen, I don't know if this karma thing's real, the test thing's real, all this stuff. I don't want to work this stuff out no more. Let's just be happy. Let's just have a cool life from here on out. And I know that's kind of not practical, but I mean, don't you ever get those times in life where like you just look up at the sky and you're like, can you give me a break this time, please? You know?
Oh yeah. That's part of the human experience.
Yeah. Like just give me just a break, right? Don't tease me with something. Just give me a real break. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. If I'm being totally honest with you, I don't think I'm the only one there, you know?
Not this year.
For sure. Like a lot of people are going through some hard stuff. But I feel like that in a good way that the people are having the chance to go internally and change a lot of things for their own benefit right now. I look at it that way. I mean, what are you going to do when you're confined? Go within.
Yeah, you can either be frustrated by it, or you can take the moment of pause and find the strength and find what elements of your life are still in your control. I mean, here I am in LA, that is just not like the COVID cases are terrible or anything like that. They're probably higher here as far as sheer numbers. There's 10,000 people in the LA County area, or 10 million, I'm sorry. So I expect the numbers to be higher, but I can rail all day about the things that I can't do now that I could have done 10 months ago. What's the point in it? What's in my control? And as I step into the place of what's in my control, that keeps me active and moving forward and feeling like I am still, it builds confidence for one, because I'm seeing action happen, where if we focus on complaining about the government or anything else, it's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about that until that magical day known as Election Day comes around. And then we have our ability to do that. Yeah, we can protest in the meantime. We can bring awareness to things. But in reality, what can I do to affect my life to carry it forward? And that's where I focus my action.
So tell me about your hypnosis. I know you got some meditations on here, but what types of hypnosis do you do, and like how do you go about it? You don't have to tell me the whole thing. I'm just curious about because we've talked to a lot of hypnotherapists on this show, and some have just all these different techniques they use, and they're trying to get to, personality disorders and things like that. What are like some of the big things you're looking for when you go into a session?
When I'm working with a client, I'm tending to, they're coming in looking to change their life in some way, and they've tried other things, more traditional techniques. And what I find with hypnotherapy is we can get down to the elements or the parts of them. Because somebody says, part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do that, and I'm torn. We can talk to those parts in one of the techniques that I do, and understand why maybe some self-sabotaging behavior is coming forward, or where a limiting belief came up, typically being structured in childhood, that is running as a subroutine, going back to the programming idea. This thing that's running as a subroutine that we are not aware of, that's actually causing us to choose actions that are not for our highest good, of maybe being healthy or relieving stress and letting go of guilt. But we feel like I've got to hold on to it. So parts therapy is one thing that I do. I also am trained to do past life regression, and those are fascinating. I love doing past life when the client is open to it. I never force a technique onto a client, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's about the client being comfortable with me, and that stuff you see on stage of people snapping their fingers and saying sleep now. Yes, those instant inductions work, but the chicken dancing and appearing out of control is not a real thing.
Oh, okay. So it's a willingness to go deep, right? That's it. Yeah, because I was reading Michael Newton's Journey of Souls. He didn't really reveal how he did it, but he did say, it's the deepening that I would do to them, or something that I would try to get to them quickly. And he would talk to them about in between lives. Did that ever happen? Did that ever come up in any of your sessions?
Yes. The way that I was trained to do past life regression, we go to the space, the life between lives, based on Newton's work. So that is amazing stuff. I've been there and I've taken clients there. It's really, really fascinating.
So you know how to do it then, huh? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's part of what I'll be doing. I'm planning a retreat to Peru. We're going to be in the Sacred Valley in December. And part of the work that we will be doing there is going to the life between prior to coming into this life.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So there's this idea in the spiritual movement that we're all a part of one thing, or that kind of thing. I feel I can't say that I know that for sure, but I definitely feel like that we do have like these groups of people or clusters, I guess, that we kind of, I don't know, incarnate with. Does that seem to come up for you in those sessions?
Yeah, there's those clusters of people that recur throughout multiple lifetimes, and one time it might be my mom, and the next time it's my wife, and the next time it's my sister, or maybe we even change genders as we come down through the energy waves. But yeah, there are core people around us that show up repeatedly.
So is that whole twin flame thing real then, or is that just a fallacy thing?
I'm torn. I really am on it. It feels like a new twist on the idea of the soulmate.
Uh-huh.
And I
don't know. Oh, I hope we didn't lose him.
You're my soulmate.
Oh,
you
yeah.
there?
Yeah, I got you now. But that's what,
go ahead.
Yeah, a soulmate connection is pretty intense, right? Like, so you think
it is, but it
it's
doesn't
a twin.
mean that's the person we're supposed to be with.
Right.
Just because we have maybe the twin, the flame there's a twinness to it. It doesn't mean that's the person we're supposed to be with. It just means that there's a soul connection. Just like there's probably multiple, I just lost the word. Not the twin flame, but the other thing.
So, yes. Soulmates. Yeah, I lost it too. Yeah, that was weird.
That, there's this idea of soulmates, but if I've got a collection of people that have been in and out of my life over multiple lifetimes, there's more than one soulmate. And I think that manifests in life as we find somebody that we resonate with really closely and really deeply and connect. Like that moment, it's like almost like true love and deep connection. Maybe not always like in loving, but just you meet somebody and you just know.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what the soulmate thing is. It doesn't have to be this bond where we're together forever for the rest of our lives. It's just like, yeah, we vibrate at the same frequency and we've known each other before. That's all it has to mean.
Yeah, to me, it's like if you do the twin flame thing, then it's almost like the devil card in the tarot. Then it's like the bondage thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm never gonna get out of this or whatever. But you shouldn't feel that way with. I don't think somebody that you're wanting to spend the rest of your life with. That should be like a special thing that grows and all kinds of stuff. To me, I think everybody looks at it different. But I do think like the twin flame thing is kind of, I don't know, it could be made up. But there were stories in like Newton's book where a few people, like it was kind of rare, wasn't it? Like a few people kept reincarnating that way, I think.
I vaguely remember those stories. There were a couple.
Yeah, there were just a couple for sure. So, all right, so we got to take our first break here because I was going to ask a little bit more questions on that. If you guys got any questions too, you can drop it into the chat room at thefringe.fm/chat room. Join our Discord server. We'll be right back with Daniel Olexa. Stay with us.
Listening to the Fringe FM.
This is Elle. I listen listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop, thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Born out of the alchemical tradition of Paracelsus is a medical tradition called Spagyria. Though not many people practice this work today, Phoenix Aurelius has been researching and teaching this work for the last 15 years, and he needs your support.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Aurelius, and I'm the founder of the Phoenix Aurelius Research Society, where I perform modern scientific research on the methods and techniques of Paracelsian alchemy and Spagyria for health, wellness, agriculture, ecology, and more. All my work is 100% funded by the public. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to support my research, please consider making a purchase of spagyric medicines from my apothecary, fund your own spagyric IDF wellness research, or participate in my group study or one-on-one immersion courses so that you can learn how to perform this work for yourself. I want to thank you in advance for your support.
Visit thefringe.fm/alchemy research and enter coupon code FRINGE and receive 15% off anything and everything on the website. That's thefringe.fm/alchemy research. And thank you for doing your part and keeping alchemy alive in the modern day.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
I'm Ryan Gable of the Secret Teachings Radio Show, and you're listening to KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. Check out my show, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, right here on The Fringe, 11 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern, U.S. time.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're here with our guest tonight, Daniel Olexa, author and hypnotist. We're talking about his book, one of his books right now, Practical Manifesting, and we're also talking about his hypnosis practices. And we got into Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, got into discussing that, and they got into discussing soul groups and soul families and twin flames, all that stuff, right? I think that's a fascinating discussion. But like when you have a connection with somebody, and Ryan and I were talking about this because this has happened to him before too, where I don't know, sometimes you have the same dreams and sometimes you have the same synchronicities, and then you have a deep connection, and then, like feelings grow and all this stuff. And then you really feel like this destined thing, but there are some type of blocks that are happening. That happens to a lot of people. Actually, you think it's just some type of weird situation that's only happening to you, but the more you investigate it, you say, well, man, that's happening to a lot of people. And I have to wonder what that's about, because it's extremely frustrating, man. I don't know I'm sure somebody's talked to you about that.
Oh, they absolutely have. And as we're having this conversation, it reminds me of my very first experience. It kind of ties together the topics we were talking about before the break. My very first experience with past life regression back when I was in my early 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
Did a regression with somebody who had just been trained in it. And I go back to Egypt. And I'm one of the people working on building the pyramids. And there's this woman that I meet in it. And I remember exactly the words. Like, she was very very focused on material things. And I remember saying to the person, like, oh, she loves her baubles. And there was something about the word baubles. I have no idea where it came from. And then, like, we just made some footnotes on it. I had the notes leaving. About 3 or 4 months later, I meet a person who is very metaphysical, older woman, more of a mentoring role, and just kind of connect into that space of there was not like physical attraction, but just like this respect for each other.
Yeah.
And it was weird because there was this deep connection, but then it took about 6-8 months as a group of people built around that person to start to notice the manipulations going on behind, and how that person that was central to us all, that we all respected, all were drawn to, was manipulating each of us against each other.
What?
And also using our energies in some weird stuff. I remember a group of us got together one night, and like, I no sooner arrived than I'm wiped out. Like, I'm just going to go get some sleep. I'm going to go drop on the sofa. And whatever was going on in the kitchen was going on in the kitchen. When they wrap up, I suddenly magically wake up and I'm fine. Like, oh yeah, I'm good to drive home now. So there was definitely some kind of soulmate, and I air quote that, connection there, of a past life connection coming through. The question became, what was I supposed to do with it and learn from it from this time around? And I can think that through with a number of people, particularly in my misspent youth, of people I was drawn to that felt this deep connection, but it really came down to understanding myself, because I also found that I tended to relive the same story with each of them of how the relationship would flow and end.
Oh, okay.
And rather than stepping back and looking at, I was aware of some of it, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because this same thing has happened now with like 6 different people.
Wow.
So what's this theme? I don't get it. And I would say that's also kind of where I at that point in my life, I also didn't understand the energetics of protection either. And I was like putting my light out there bright and playing in realms that I don't know that I was ready to play in. And I was attracting all kinds of energy vampires and karmic stuff for me to get my life together. Because when those relationships would go, I would just shut down. And then I'd stay shut down for years until it felt safe to come out again.
Yeah. See, I've been there before too. Like, I've shut down for almost 10 years. I don't want to do that again. Because it's it's a lot of pain to deal with. Really. Why is that?
It is.
Why do we go through so much pain? Because I really believe, like, deep down, that's what we all want, But I think there's...
Deep down we want the pain, or
not the pain, right? But the connection. Like, we want some type of serious spiritual deep connection with somebody, you know, that's deeper than, I guess, what we've grown up with, because everything seems to disappoint us when it comes to those things. Even to the point where certain people just expect the worst all the time, you know. And like, you have to, I don't know, like I understand what you're saying there. Like, you have to like back up and look and go, okay, I keep doing this thing, this cycle thing. In my case, it's like, that's crazy. So it's actually happened to you too. That's cool. So in my case, it's always like the carrot, like someone kind of holds this, you know, like your whole dreams out in front of you, and you're like, okay, well, this is it, right? I'm going there, and then, you know, and it's like, what is that? That's not it didn't happen 6 times though, you know. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think maybe we do just keep attracting that. Well, like, we have to take some type of responsibility for that, don't we?
We absolutely do, because no thing outside of us has control over us unless we give it.
Right.
So when we come back to our centering space of what happens inside this bag of meat and bones and inside the head, inside the heart, and I take responsibility for everything that happens within my field of presence. If I've let somebody else manipulate me because they're dangling that carrot in front of me and I'm chasing after it, I got to take responsibility for it. It's not them. I allowed it.
Yeah. Ouch.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's a hard moment.
Yeah. Like, ow. Like, you don't want to take responsibility for that, you know. Now, but what if, here's a really not twisted, but kind of like even paradigm shaking type thing. What if you get in a situation where you come into this awareness, which I think is really happening now for a lot of people because of what we're going through, where you actually recognize that, and not just you, but both people in the situation, you see? And they're like, you know, and then you both kind of step back and you say, well, I don't want to do this anymore. They say they don't want to do that anymore, but there's still the connection there. Because that's happened. I thought that was just happening in my life, but that's happened twice. But that's happening to my friend. That's happening to a relative of mine. And I can't help but every time I do this show and talk about something, I think I'm going through something that nobody else in the world is going through, right? And I think that's kind of like the victim program too in the background. And then you end up like hearing it or you read about it and it's like, what? And I kind of think that that's the universe trying to show you something too, you know?
We can look at it as the universe, or we could look at it as the reticular activating system.
What's that?
And the reticular activating system is part of our brainstem. It's part of our reptilian brain. That's an attention focusing device. So most people will experience it when they buy a new car. That, you know, they maybe saw it on TV or a friend had one, and there's none in town. Never saw one. They go out and buy the car, and on the way home, there's like 20 on every street corner because it's now in their, what I call their sphere of awareness. The RAS is something that has kept us alive for millions of years, as from the time we were hunter-gatherers. It looks at patterns. It tends to look at somewhat at negative patterns because it helps keep us alive. But when you start thinking about something, it gets into the RAS, and then you'll start noticing it everywhere.
Okay.
Just like what you were just saying there. It's this thing, if I'm looking for validation that I am less than in some way, and I'm waiting for that other shoe, the RAS is going to program in that, okay, we're going to watch for everywhere that you can possibly get knocked down or feel like you're less than or be abused in some way. And I'm choosing my words carefully because I would say this differently if I wasn't on the air.
Yeah.
That the RAS is going to prove to us that thing that we hold as a truth, because that truth is part of who we think we are.
Well,
so
you are, by the way, you are on the air, just to let you know, but I didn't know if you thought you were off the air, but you are on the air.
Oh, no, I meant I didn't want to drop words that are not.
Oh yeah. Okay. Like bad words. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Got you guys.
I have a more blunt way of speaking.
I mean, like, so the bullshit lets us know. No, I get it. No, I got it. Sorry. All right. Well,
so that thing of, we're telling ourselves a story that and it might not be one that's empowering, that it's this less than, that I have to struggle, all these things. There's a part of us that believes that to be a truth. And what happens if we find out it's not true and I don't have to struggle? And then we might move into this space of abusing ourselves, saying, well, man, I can't believe I didn't figure that out sooner. I'm so stupid. I wasted all this part of my life. No, it's just you came to that awareness now. You were ready to accept it. And there was something else in there that you were sharing, the like the pattern that two people come to that space of, well, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, like they both realize, hey, we've been here before. At the same time. Now what?
And that's where the new languaging comes in, and the choice. It's like, we know what we've done before. Doesn't mean we have to do that again.
Right.
What do you want to do now from this moment forward? There's some intricate language tricks there, but they're important. It's like saying, I don't want to be like my parents.
Ah, okay.
And then we suddenly look at all the ways that we might stumble with our children and treat them like our parents treated us, rather than seeing the 80% of the time that we're doing wonderful things and being that connected parent that's empowering. We'll remember the one time when we slipped and yelled at them in a moment of frustration and beat ourselves up, rather than so again, going back to the RAS, what I don't want to do is fill in the blank. Shift that language, because when you say that, you'll focus everything into whatever you say, fill in the blank. What do you want to do from this moment forward? Right now in the present is where we can make the change. We know what the past was. It's not what we want anymore. We can choose to positively create from this moment forward, whatever that means, and then start walking the path.
Gotcha. And then really change, like actually break the cycle or whatever that is. Yeah. Because it's like, I know what you're talking about. All growing up in my life, I would always tell myself, I would always play, like, say what you're saying. Like, this person's so focused on, whether it was my dad or somebody in my life, this person's so focused on this one bad thing that I did. And they just can't see the entirety of everything that we did or the good stuff that I've done. They don't even. And then you get in that tit for tat, like, what about this and what about that? And now you're going down this road again, when I think, like, I don't know. I think that's interesting, because I've never heard anybody put like a phrase to that, but I've noticed it. It's like, why do we focus on the one bad thing and let go of all of the good stuff?
It's called the negativity bias, and we all have it as human beings. We look for the thing that's wrong. Because again, it kept us alive when we were hunter-gatherers, that if we were walking our path out with our buddies hunting so that we could feed everybody back at the tribe, and the reeds moved and a tiger jumped out and ate our friend, the next time we walk down that path, maybe we walked down it 100 times before, but that one time a tiger jumped out and ate somebody. Now, every time we walk that same path again, when those reeds move, we're going to be on high alert, because it happened once. It's why, and I'll talk to students about this when I'm teaching, it's why prior to COVID, when life was, air quote, normal, tens of thousands of airplanes flew every day successfully from one airport to the other. But what's the one that we remember? The one that every couple years didn't make it, for whatever reason. That gets etched in our memory as an anomaly, as the thing of, I'm glad I wasn't on it. But at the same time, statistically, it's absolutely irrelevant. Maybe not to the people who were on the plane, but if you look at sheer numbers, it's statistically irrelevant, but it etches in our mind because we look for the problem.
Red flag hunting. That's what I called it. It's because we expect the worst from a lot of things. It's a survival thing, right? We as humans do it. And see, I think, like, when you grow spiritually, I guess, or maybe you can correct me here, it's I don't know, when you talk to these old cute couples or family members and you wonder how you've been married for 50 years and they got this big old family and it seems like they're really happy. You ask them, you say, well, what's your secret? And it's like, they just don't take everything so damn seriously. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like they understand what you and I are talking about, I think.
They don't get stuck in what I would call like the ego differences, that my opinion matters more than the other person's. And we find they find a co-creative space between where each can be who they are and also have flexibility to create something that's bigger than both of them.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, that's got to come back. I think we should do that. Not just in relationships, but also like as communities and stuff. Because right now they're definitely trying to keep us apart, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The division that I'm seeing sown out there, and it seems like it gets worse every election year, and this year's even worse with all of the other events going on.
So do you believe in, how far does it go? Just, I don't want to get too personal here because I like to talk about what you do, but how far does it go to what you believe in spiritually? Like, do you get into astrology or stuff? I can imagine if you're listening to Newton that, a lot of stuff is on the table for you, isn't it?
I'm open. I tend to look at things is I believe there's at least a little bit of truth in everything, that not any one particular thing is a whole truth, but all the elements out there have something. And I'm more than happy to entertain an idea and find what works and what doesn't for me. And that could be, if, let's say, since it's you and I talking, we present an idea, or I present one to you, or you present one to me, that we might each have a different resonance with it and the core concepts within it. That doesn't make either of us wrong. It just means we've found the thing in that topic that works for each of us. And my bits of takeaway could be completely different than yours, but that's because we're two different people.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that at all, for sure.
Yeah. I've recently moved. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. You recently moved, you said?
I recently moved into a space of talking about this because it's really become clear to me, particularly through the past 8 months, that if you've heard the term light worker. So using the concept of light, that if we are part of a whole, which is where I come from things, that we are part of a much larger whole. And if you think about the concept of white light, the visible spectrum of white light, when it passes through a prism and refracts, it refracts into 7 colors, the 7 colors of the rainbow. And if we look at ourselves as the facets, either the facets of a prism that's refracting that light, or as individual bandwidths within that let's say you're, as the white light refracts and it comes in to be you, that it's kind of in the yellow range. And my color might be, let's say, blue. So as we're there, you're yellow, I'm blue. We might not quite see eye to eye because we're at 2 different frequencies, but we might each kind of be okay with the green people because they have a little bit of yellow in them and a little bit of blue in them, depending on where they are in that range. The red people, I don't get along with them. I don't understand them. And you're going to be looking at those indigo and violet people. Nah, they're just too weird. They're like the absolute opposite of me.
Gotcha.
When we start defining by the bandwidth and who we relate to, we miss the part that every one of those bandwidths is important to coming back to the whole totality of the white light. There's something to learn in each of them, and each one is important.
That's really cool. And that was in kind of Newton's work when they, I think, right, where they had certain souls that put off certain colors and vibrations and stuff like that. Even he talked about that a lot. That's very interesting.
Yeah, he talked about those soul group colors. Now that you mentioned, I do remember that he talked about the soul group colors. I hadn't made that connection back to this thing that popped in my head. Interesting. I have to go back and read Newton now.
Yeah, and then people can see auras and stuff like that, and that's really weird because I was out at Lake Canandaigua the other day and I saw this double rainbow and I was thinking, man, that's really cool, the only time that I had one experience like that in the physical world, but kind of with a person that I thought was or I still kind of think, that they're a soulmate, not real sure about the connection, that kind of thing, but the energy was something that I had never felt before in my entire life, and ever in my entire life. I'm almost 40 now. I know that might be a pup to some, and that might be real old for others. I don't care. You get tired of hearing that stuff. Like, how old do you got to be before it matters? But whatever. You when that happens, it really like shook everything. It almost shook me up as much as the out of body experience did that I had. Because it's like, why is there so much energy there? What's that about? And you can't help but fixate on it. And I wonder if that's a problem too. Like, how do we let that go? Or should we not let it go? I don't know.
I think when you feel something that strong, there's that draw to understand it. The space to be careful in is not letting that vibration run you, but to come at it more from an observer state and figure out what it is instead. It's kind of like the person who goes in too fast into a relationship. They get really heart-centered and declare their love, and they're ready to get married in 2 days. It's like you get that vibe and like, okay, I gotta hold back just a little bit because I really want to understand where this is coming from and how is it serving me and how might it not be, so that we can make a more, I guess the word would be holistic, a more informed decision about how to proceed with the energy, because energy is energy.
Yeah.
How are you going to harness it to then carry you forward toward your intended?
I like to think that like when that happens, because it's happened in my life a few times, but like, not like that, but I like to think that you should harness it creatively or in art or whatever, just don't harness it negatively.
Exactly.
Because energy's energy, right? Like you just said, you can definitely take something like that and really, let it destroy you too. If you become, it is kind of crazy how everything has a polar nature to it. Just matters on what you decide, I think.
Yeah, I don't know why, for whatever reason, like Adele's second album is popping in my head right now. She was so incredibly heartbroken and wrote one of the best albums ever in the history of music.
Yeah. That's when some of the best music is written, actually. And, but I am just so like right now afraid, not just in my situation, but in a lot of people's situation that I know it sounds super conspiratorial, but I feel like there's this force out there that's trying to keep people apart. I don't know what it is. It doesn't feel nice. And it feels like it's out to destroy even, I don't know, soul families, you name it. It wants everybody to separate, not have physical interaction, keep the energy apart. And I get kind of weird about that stuff, though. Like do people that talk to you during your hypnosis sessions, do they ever speak of seeing, I don't know, like bad or diabolical energies or anything like that in between these lives?
Oh yeah, we have them come up during the session sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I do in the work that I do, particularly when we go into parts work is where it tends to show up the most. The word I'll use right now is like entity attachment of a sometimes malevolent, sometimes confused energy that is attached to this person with the intention of having them be miserable because it feeds off of it. It's fascinating work when it goes there and being with someone and having their voice change.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
The very, very first time it happened to me was my very first day in practice. And the person who was my client was talking about, we were doing the parts work and there was this part that was kind of hiding. And like, you just bring it to the table. It's okay. It's here. And it starts talking. And there's little clues I get now and then that tells me it's not.
You know what? We got to take a break, but that's the perfect teaser.
We'll pick it up.
We're going to talk about the voice changing when we come back. Sorry guys. I got to take the break. We'll be right back. The news is coming up. You can't leave and tease better with nothing than that. Be right back. scaring me, man.
Have you ever wanted to dream about being a character in your favorite video game or movie? Would you like to dream your fantasy with all 5 senses in detail and remember everything? It's time to bring the dreaming mind back online. Introducing Dreaming for Gamers from Ian Wilson.
Dreaming for Gamers will teach you how to program your dreams to dream what you want from any video game, movie, or source material that you choose. The courses help rehabilitate the dreaming mind out of atrophy so you can remember your dreams, taste, touch, smell, see, and hear, as well as be self-aware and take complete control over the dream state like Neo in The Matrix. You can't catch COVID in a dream, but you can wake up with a happy ending.
Type in thefringe.fm/dreamplay and sign up today to get dreaming now. That's thefringe.fm/dreamplay, or click the banner at thefringe.fm today and take the 7-day dream challenge for free while it lasts.
Ryan Gable here, and I'd like to invite you to my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings, airing 5 nights a week right here at midnight Pacific on the Fringe FM. Whether you enjoy history, the paranormal, symbolism, the occult, magic, parapolitics, or our annual Super Bowl show, our breakdown of the music entertainment industry, or our practical look at health, we have something for you that's unique, informative, and fun in rare form. Find us at facebook.com by searching facebook.com/The Secret Teachings. Find us online by searching www.thesecretteachings.info. Or you can email us at rdgable, rdgable, @yahoo.com. That's The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, right here at midnight Pacific on the Fringe FM.
Abnormal News, I'm Brad Bernards.
So you think 2020 has been a crazy year? But wait, there's more. An asteroid is headed toward Earth. NASA says it is predicted to pass near our planet on November 2nd, one day before the presidential election. Sure, why not?
That's courtesy Fox News. TheVerge.com reports this so-called dangerous asteroid, dubbed 2018 VP1, has a 0.41% chance of crossing paths with Earth on November 2nd. Incredibly low odds, and even if it did take a turn and hit us, no one would be in danger. The asteroid is a measly 2 meters, or 6.5 feet across, making it slightly smaller than a compact smart car. If it did hit our atmosphere, it would completely disintegrate up above us. For reference, much larger satellites and space debris enter our atmosphere from time to time, burning up above us without affecting anyone on the ground. The BBC reports that local officials in Florida have approved the release of 750 million mosquitoes that have been genetically modified to reduce local populations. RT America's John Huddy.
A U.S.-owned British-based company called Oxitec created the modified mosquito named OX5034 and describes its project as friendly mosquito technology, explaining that its mosquito has been altered to produce female offspring that die in the larval stage before hatching and growing large enough to bite and spread disease.
The greenlighting of a pilot project after years of debate drew a swift outcry from environmental groups who warned of unintended consequences. There's more news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
Hey Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit BeyondTheStrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift. Roger, nice to be in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're in the second hour. Don't forget, after this show, the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable will be on 5 nights a week here at late night on the Fringe FM. Things get really deep every single night. Our guest tonight, who was telling a really cool story before we bounced out of here, is Daniel Olexa, is a hypnotist, author, and life coach. And, you were telling kind of like a creepy story. And by the way, if you want to call in too, you can. It's 1-800-588-0335. The phones are loading up. If you got a question about any of this, it's best to call in because I can't keep up with all the questions in the chat room. I'm sorry. I love you guys, but I can't. Unless you're in the Void Walkers Patreon thing, then I kind of have to. So I keep an eye on that. But you were telling me a story. You were doing a session and someone's voice changed, and I had to cut you off. So can you go from there?
Yeah, we were doing some parts work, and there was a part that was kind of lurking. The way the parts work is set up, there's a table and chairs, and we ask the parts of the person to come and have a conversation, whatever that thing is they're wrestling with. And there was this part that wasn't coming to the table, and I kept saying, it's okay, just have it come, let it come forward. And it finally comes up, and it's got a weird shape. She's describing it to me, and I'm asking, what's your intention? What is the thing that you do for her? And it kept talking in these weird, her voice shifted just a little bit deeper and was talking in just kind of circles. And at one point, it became very clear that this thing was not part of her, but an energy attachment. And it seemed like it was at least sentient and aware because of the way it was talking. And I said in that moment, something about, okay, you're not part of her. It's time for you to go. So if you imagine she's in the recliner, and I'm sitting off to what would be the right side of the chair. So she's looking straight ahead. I'm off to the right. And when I said, okay, it's time for you to go, she lifted her head up, turned and looked straight at me with her eyes closed, never opened them, and said in this deep voice, like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. What do you want, me to come after you next?
Whoa. Whoa.
And I sat there, and in that moment, it was like, you don't have that power, and we're done here. You are gone. And called in the light. And it was an easy one, thankfully, to get rid of. All we had to do was to get it to look up and see the light. Because the way my beliefs, and also happened to be hers, that even those things that seem like shadowy entities, they all came from light. They just are existing in an absence or a lessening of it. And when we can facilitate them back to light to remember what they are or to be transmuted in it, they'll go away. So I use light work a lot in the work that I do. And there have been a number of moments over the years where people have had this energy stuck to them. And sometimes it's as simple as ideas coming from people in their life, like parents or something else, that they're living somebody else's story of what they were told to do. But other times it most definitely appears to be a sentient thing that I would call an entity that is attached to their life and just wreaking havoc in how they feel about themselves.
So when people always like try to blame that on, say, well, that's a demon, right? But is it something like we're creating, you think? You know, or is it actually some type of entity? Maybe sounds like an entity.
I think it's an energy and an entity that once it becomes attached in some way, and I hesitate to use the word, but I won't use the word vampiric. I'll use the word leech because it sounds less evil. That it actually creates a distress in the person and causes them to make bad choices or live in create a sense of stress and urgency in their life, that they're just frantically acting, and it's able to draw off this energy because that throw off of this frantic, stressful energy is what it needs to feed on. I actually had one say to me one time, it was one of those moments where I wasn't sure yet whether it was part of the person or not. And I asked the question, like, tell me why you do your job. And it was like, because I need her to live. Like, on the first pass, it's like, that makes sense to me, because if it's part of the person, it needs her to live. And then, like, I thought about it again, thought, oh no, wait, that's not what it said. It's not the intention behind it. And I asked a couple questions deeper, and it became very clear in that moment that it was just feeding off of her.
Holy crap, man. You know, so this idea of the parasite, I don't know if you read like Robert Monroe's books, but he talked about seeing one of those things. Aurelius talked about it too. I produced a show called Love, Sex, and the Hidden Agenda, where it's just a show about relationships and stuff, and the kind of energies and stuff behind the scenes and the metaphysical realms behind that. And actually, the newest episode I'm gonna be on as a guest, but for y'all, by the way, but she saw that, like this, like parasitic being that feeds off of people, but that was a different energy. But I gotta think, like, okay, if there's a parasitic being eating off people's like sexual desires or whatever, right, and other desires, there's got to be other types of beings or elementals or whatever you want to call them feeding off of other things that are in those realms. It got to be. There has to be.
I would imagine so. And just as there are those entities, there are the positive ones as well, whether, depending what my client believes in, because I'll facilitate to their beliefs. Angel guides, I've had Christ come to the table, have God come to the table, had Buddha, whatever their belief system is. When I ask the work of it, and I never talk about it from the malevolent side of, if there's a problem, who do we call on? I'll just present it as, if for some reason we need to call on a higher awareness or something for guidance that knows more than you do, who would that be? And I'll get their name. And then when we come to those moments of, I'm not sure where this goes next, like, so call this person in, or call this deity in, and ask them to be at the table and ask them for their perspective on this part that's here. And we'll get it really clear very quick. And then if it is not part of them, and it is not something that is leading toward their highest good, we seal it up and destroy it.
And you just do that using the light and whatever that person agrees that is the spiritual power figure in their life, right?
Yeah, I'll ask them, once we get it sealed up and all the tethers, ties, and connections cut, that they are completely free from it. I'll do the healing first, so that they can see, like, if there were say any wounds from where that entity was connected, make sure that we heal that on the energetic level. And then it's like, how would you like to get rid of it? And give them if they're not sure, give them the choice of, well, we can bury it, we can throw it in the ocean, we can send it to the sun, one client just like, I want to send it through a vortex to the center of the universe. Okay, let's imagine that and go ahead and kick it through.
God, I can imagine hearing somebody's voice change like that. I mean, but I saw a ghost for the first time. I bet your heart sped up, didn't it? Just a little bit.
There was a moment, there was like, am I ready for this? And I had to really think into my training at that point. Like it's a being of light. It's forgotten it. Just stay with it, and it has no power over you. So stand in it and really declare that you're the one in charge here. Because if you waver in this moment, you don't know what's going to happen.
Jeez, man. But that's actually really cool, because then you're aware of these dimensions. I actually want to do this. Tell me, I'm going to run this idea by you, and you tell me if this would be a good radio show. All right?
Sure.
Like, I wanted to talk to a person about this. Like, I want to get involved with hypnosis, but also like in deeper ways, like what you were doing and what Tom Zissner's doing when he talks to multiple personalities. You know how these people have like dissociative disorder, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll have like personalities that come up and try to protect certain parts of them. Have you ever ran into that?
No, not in that way. When I do parts work, it's more subordinate parts instead of divergent.
Gotcha. So yeah, see, so there's so many different methods about this, right? And I want to try to figure out. Maybe I should talk to you about this off air so somebody doesn't like steal my idea. I guess it's too late, but like I want to try to figure out how to do this on the air, right? Okay. Like somehow where I can talk to callers and stuff and figure out, try to show them that there is the metaphysical realm. You understand what I'm saying? By digging in their subconscious or learning hypnosis or doing hypnotic things on the air. I don't even know if that's possible. I'll figure it out. I think it could be, and I'd almost say, just as I'm thinking about how would that happen,
that as long as the induction was done prior to the show starting, so the induction process wasn't on the air and potentially hypnotized people driving, that then as long as the facilitator and you and the participant were mic'd up, that could be facilitated pretty easily.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that would be cool. Because I really think the most pain that we have is coming from the suffering that we have in our lives. It's coming from the subconscious or the unconscious, whatever you want to call it. And it is the doorway to the metaphysical realms. I really do believe that.
I agree.
You do. Yeah, you've experienced it. Obviously, you're playing with it, not playing with it. Don't take that wrong. But
I didn't. No worries.
You know what I'm saying? Like you've studied that part of someone. You know that's what's causing everything, right? Like, but then you say it in layman's terms, like, hey, the story that you're telling yourself, that's the life you're creating. But it's a little bit more. It's that simple, but it's a lot deeper than that, isn't it?
It can be, and it really depends on how convoluted they want to make that story. So I look at it from a lot of different levels, and it really becomes the flow of the session in that moment, in getting them as far along as we possibly can in the space of that 2-hour session. And sometimes it's not about breaking through the wall in that moment because it may be too much of a shift. Sometimes it's about taking a few bricks out and easing into that transition of the new space, because new space is territory stuff, is scary stuff. When you think about it, I've got this comfort zone that I'm comfortable. I may be miserable, but I'm comfortable. I don't know what's on the other side of that. And some people want to blow through that and be on the other side of it. And some are going to say, I want to test the waters a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm always the guy that's like, uncertainty, fear, not sure. Let's go. You know, you're right. That's not the best way for everything and everybody, for sure. But it's led me to where I am. So,
and that's what matters. It's your journey.
That's right. Yeah. But I'm sure, I think some of that has to do with like inner child. Doesn't everything kind of go back to the inner child first, and then maybe the ancestral and past life stuff?
A lot does. And that's a place that I've been playing in the last 6-8 months, of how much of the inner child or the pain of the inner child, which is what we tend to deal with, how much of that is actually the thing that we're supposed to overcome in this life to be who we're meant to be and complete the contract we signed coming in. And the more I research into it and the more I experiment with it, that going back to the works of Newton, like we choose our parents coming in and we choose a contract with whomever we are signing our contract with, God or whatever, to do something, and we choose the obstacles we put in the way. And it's funny how the things that we face in childhood as obstacles that are the ego conditioning that tell us we are less than are exactly the polar opposite of who we're supposed to be.
I'll be damned. That's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. Because I see that in astrology too. 100%. 100%. Like, I give you an example. Like, and I can only speak about myself, so sorry, y'all. But like when I look at my astrology, you know, I've got the 10th house has the moon in it, which means, you know, usually I would keep to myself unless the moon's in the 10th house, right? That's the way the chart's set up, which shows like this subconscious feminine energy, also open emotionally, being aware of this type of energy, but supposed to do it for a career, right? It's supposed to be open emotionally, nurturing to the point of vulnerability. I've really studied this, just saying. And then, but grew up by a hard ass where I wasn't allowed to be emotional at all. You know, no emotion whatsoever. Right? Like, tighten that up. Only weak people do that. Don't show me no emotions. You know, it was more than just like, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. It was way more than that. I haven't heard
that phrase in a long time.
You know, it was way more than that. It's like, you know, I don't want to get too detailed into it, but it made me who I am too. There were good things about it where he showed me willpower and consistency and how to rise above the rest in certain ways, that kind of thing, you know. But I always longed to express myself emotionally, vulnerably, and say, like, this is emotional balance, to be honest with yourself, but not so much to where you're just, you know, flipping out, because I started noticing growing up around people that would just bury them. They buried their emotions, but then they would either have to drink to like let them out, do drugs to let them out, or when they had an emotional outburst, it was insane. Like, it would cause just crazy things to happen, you know? And it's like, okay, well, you're right. I was the opposite. Anyways, I'm rambling. Sorry.
And then those are the people that they get so good at stuffing it down, and they blow up at a scale 10 over something that's like a 1 or a 2. And then they tell them, so they focus, going back again to where we were earlier, I focus on the thing that's wrong. And instead of allowing myself to have this range of emotional intelligence where I respond appropriately at that 1 or 2 instead of blowing up at a 10, I'll tell myself, oh, I just did what that person in my life did, and I got to get better at stuffing it down. And their threshold climbs, and now they're blowing up at 15 when that next little 1 or 2 pushes them over the fringe. And instead of moving into the space of, I can assertively say yes or no at the lower end and stand in that I don't have to build it up. I can just let it be, and let my emotions, no matter what they are, be appropriate for the situation and how I'm feeling. If somebody has a problem with it, you know whose problem it is? It's theirs, not mine.
Yeah, you got that. That's a good point. That is a good point. But I got to tell you, everybody that I've come into contact with closely, I feel like I've done something for them in that realm. You see? Like,
okay.
Don't we do that? Like, we attract these mirrors in our life? Because I'm sitting here telling you that I might be emotionally more intelligent than most people. But I've still attracted mirrors in my life where they're kind of on that same level, where they're not as open emotionally, and then not just one person, quite a few actually, 2 or 3 people, or they're not as open emotionally, but still have the same depth. And then we're both kind of growing off each other because I get involved in my emotions too much instead of, like, you know, grounding. You see how that kind of balances back and forth. So you get these mirrors, but these mirrors that have kind of opposites that grow you too. If that makes sense. Yeah,
and as we move through our process, it's just like I said, we constantly attract those reflections that help us grow. And occasionally we'll even attract the reflection that we look back and say, I can't believe I was that funhouse mirror 5 years ago, because I can see myself in it right now.
Yeah. And I've even had like I was telling Amelie on her show, y'all got to go listen to it, where I even had my masculinity challenged at one time because of it. And I was like, I mean, I totally grew up a jock and like was a total like masculine dominant type guy, and I still have that energy in me, but I have this other one too. So I'm playing this juggling act all the time. And I was watching this video where they were talking about like, this fire sign and then like whatever Cancer moon kind of whatever. Once they learn how to like really harness this, then they're going to become like Neo. But I'm thinking, what does that mean? Well, if you think about it, and this is what I want to talk to you about, manifesting things into your life. That whole thing where they say like when you can visualize something and then you can put your emotions into it and then you can actually see it and feel it kind of, and then it, that's like like Joe Dispenza talks about, putting it out there and manifesting it, right? Isn't
part one,
right? Isn't that kind of like using both? This is a rhetorical question. I think you know the answer to this, but isn't that kind of like using both the masculine, feminine energies inside of us all, making the two become one kind of thing?
Yes, because the masculine energy, if we look at it, is the energy that tends to be leaning toward giving. It's the right side of our body. We extend out. The left-hand side, the more feminine side, is the receptive side. And we can look at it left and right, that for me to manifest something, I need to put the energy out into it, into the visualization, the declaration of it, the speaking of it, the desire. I need to put that out to the universe. And then I have to be willing to receive it, because it's got to come back. And if I'm not willing to receive it, it ain't going to show up. And going the other way, if we think of it, instead of being a vertical, think of it horizontally, that when we declare something up to the ether, declare it up to the universe, up to God, and say, this is what I would like to have in my life, that on a three-dimensional, here we are in the three-dimensional reality, that it has to be created in some way by the tools and the resources that exist on the earth. So it has to come up from, in spiritual terms, it'd be Father Sky and Mother Earth. I declare the desire to Father Sky, but then the material of it comes from Mother Earth. And those two energies come together in our heart, which would be the emotional center, to then create the connection to the manifestation.
That's very well said, man. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. Well, yeah, so you got that. And so would you say, like, if, just curious, some of the clients that you talk to, how often is it that they're denying one of those energies inside them totally?
For the ones that are having difficulty bringing things into fruition, they tend to be blocking the receiving, because and it's weird, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking deeper into it, and it's because we tend to be told as kids we are not deserving of things. Like, you broke your toy, you don't deserve to have another one, you can't have that, or blah, blah, blah. So we start telling ourselves a story of we're not good enough to receive the thing that we say we want. And that blocks the energy from flowing.
Okay, gotcha.
Like all the people who say that they want to earn $100,000 a year, or they want $1 million in the bank, but they don't feel like they deserve it yet. So they create all these self-sabotaging behaviors, so that while they want it, there's some other story around it that is not in alignment with having that level of abundance in their life.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you know what? I've got a question that I want to ask you that's pretty important after this break, that you guys wouldn't believe how synchronistic these shows are, I swear. A few of you already know, though. We'll be right back, guys. More Lighting the Void coming up. Stay with us. You can call in, too. I know all you guys. 1-800-588-0335. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Tired of going out and having fun on Friday nights? Perfect. Because that's when our show, Shift Happens, airs live every Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 9 p.m. Central, right here on the Fringe FM. You get there while you can status.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to the Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on the Fringe FM.
This is Dancing Dave from Surviving the System, and you're listening to the Fringe FM. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the best revenge is success.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
I don't know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of the family of explorers of consciousness. I am a void walker. Hey, this is Macon, and you're listening to Lighting the Wood with Joe Root.
Oh man, I gotta tell you guys, I love each and every one of you Void Walkers. I love doing this every single night. It's fun doing this show, and we've been doing it for like 4 years now. I don't know, we're over like 1 million and something downloads now, up to 600 episodes. Probably like 1.5 million downloads, and some of you guys have been around here so long. I don't know, I just feel really grateful and love taking this journey with you guys each night. Our guest tonight is Daniel Olexa. I got to ask you this important question. You guys go to the website too, DanielOlexa.com, Olexa, OLEXA.com. So I had this conversation today about manifestation with a certain person, and we're both kind of discussing like, okay, if we're 100% responsible for our reality, I can see that. I can see the physical things. I can see the situations. Hell, even the weather, if you want to say that. But are we responsible for what somebody does to us, right? And I have a hard time with that. It's because, like, if we're all creators, how am I attracting, or how am I responsible if a person does, let's say, XYZ to me? Like, I don't know, they hit me in the head with a bat or something. Well, that person hit me in the head with a bat, but I'm supposed to feel responsible for it, like I attracted it. It's a very paradoxical thing to me, because it's like excusing what they did, kind of, in my mind.
And I get where you're coming from with that, because it's a hard space to be in, particularly that example. But I'd also say, what was distracting you at that moment that you didn't sense them coming up on you to be able to duck or protect yourself from it?
Okay. That's exactly what my point was, right? I was like, I have an intuition that this person's going to do this. And, you know, this is the kind of person in your life that really challenges you and helps you grow, right? So this is a good conversation. So they say, well, you have an intuition that they're going to do this, or are you making an assumption based on a fear and you're creating it, right? And I was like, I could be doing that, but my spidey senses have been going off for a while. But how can I create that? Even when I'm trying to, like, do the things they're telling me to do, like change up your communication, do something different, and then see what happens, you know? But it still happened. So, damn it, it's confusing, right?
It become there's a distinction here that as we're in the conversation, I'm trying to figure out the details of it, because I'm processing it at the same time.
Okay, I'm being vague. That's probably what it is. All right.
There's a distinction in the gut feeling, like the intuition that comes, and then depending on the person in our life, like Malcolm Gladwell writes about this wonderfully in his book.
Good author. Yeah.
So that gut instinct that says something ain't right here, but we'll overthink it or we'll overfeel it and push it away, rather than staying in that intuitive base. So when we move into the overthinking or overfeeling, we override the intuition, and then it's not so much creating. I think it actually, what my sense to say right now is, it's not the creating the hitting of the head with the bat. It is creating the space where it's allowed to happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's perfect. Okay. That answers. So I do take responsibility for that situation, because I created that space for that to happen. Damn. So they're kind of responsible for what they did, but I'm also responsible for creating the space that allowed it to happen. I know that seems simple, but if I wasn't being vague and I said, hey, every time, I'll just say, forget it. I'll just say it what it is. Every time somebody offers help, I take their help. They kind of like talk me into it. You should just accept help more. And if all right, I got a problem accepting help, I'll take it. Thanks. You know. And then I try to make sure, and then I feel like I got to make sure that I'm really paying attention to their feelings all the time. And because I know for some reason, based on my childhood, that when that help comes, there's some resentment coming directly after, right? So yeah, I see what you're saying.
There's a hook in the help.
Yes, I see what you're saying. So there's like, there's a lesson not learned. It's not that that person didn't genuinely want to help, because they do. It's not that like I'm being crazy and pissing them off, because I'm not really doing that either. It's more like I put myself in that situation, even though time and time and time again I see this happening. Right? Is that what you're saying?
that it's a familiar space in some way, shape, or form, and everything in the universe follows the path of least resistance until an outside force works on it and we move in a new direction. Basic physics. So walk in that rut that we've walked so many times before. It's a familiar path and it's an easy path, but until something comes and bumps us out of it, we're going to keep walking it. And that bump is that moment of awareness of, oh crap, I did it again. I need to do something different this time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I just need to bow down and lose that argument then. Then we are literally like 100% responsible for everything in our reality in some form or fashion.
Yeah, it's actually something I was just doing a lot of reading on the past couple of weeks. The one of the sons of Don Miguel Ruiz, I think it was Don Jose, has written some books on shamanism. And in both of the books that I was reading, he's talking about how we each construct our individual reality, and then as a whole, how all the individual realities create like a community reality. And if we move into that space of creating good things for ourselves and connecting with good things for others, it ties in where we were earlier with, do we come from a place of growth or do we come from a place of division? And it's a choice we make.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, see, because it's like we always want to point our finger and say, look what this person did to us. And it keeps happening to me. Yet, if you really look at everything from a higher point of view, we're all doing stuff unconsciously regardless anyways. When somebody really wants to help you, they really want to help you. That's what they're doing. They're helping. It just, I don't think they recognize the resentment that comes afterwards sometimes, if you don't do exactly what they want to do when they want you to do it and all this stuff. And it's like, you should just be the bigger person and not put yourself in that situation so you don't ruin a relationship you have with somebody to begin with.
Here's a really loaded question, because I just heard something in that. Why does the giving of the help have to come with strings attached?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I had a conversation with someone not too long ago around intentioning. And so like let's say I'm walking down the street, or make it simpler than that. Let's say a friend of mine says, can I borrow $200?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. I'm not really happy about putting $200 out, but yeah, okay. So here, at the moment I give it to them, it's done. It's out of my hands. And did I give it to them as a gift, or did I give it to them as a loan? If we have an agreement that it's a loan, then I expect the $200 back in some way, shape, or form at some period of time.
Right.
But if I truly give it as a gift, then my energetic attachment to that $200 has to be severed at that moment when I take my hands off of it. There is no intentionality beyond it from there. But we get hung up particularly on money. And when I was writing my second book, actually someone read my blog on this topic, and it's about the law of giving and receiving. And they sent me an email saying, I'm having some trouble around this topic. Can you help me understand it? And they were outlaying this thing about a family member. And I said, so whatever that amount of money is, and I don't know and I don't care, why is there such an attachment to it being money and the definition of expecting it back, when if you were to buy them maybe a set of furniture or a car, depending on whatever the number is, would you expect that back in return?
Right. Yeah.
And if not, then you need to give it as a gift and let everything go. But if it's a loan, then you need to have the conversation of, I'm lending it and I expect it back, and I expect it back under these terms. And they wrote back to me later and said, thank you, that was so much clarity. But if someone is truly giving a gift, that means there is no energetic attachment, no hooks in it, nothing on the other side. Just, here's your Christmas gift, go enjoy it. I'll watch you unwrap it so I can see the joy on your face, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's why they're doing
done.
it. Right?
Yeah.
And I genuinely think when you give, whether there's resentment afterwards or not, at that moment you're giving, you do feel that way. Like you're making a person happy, Because
the resentment, Yeah, the resentment after comes from an ego attachment to the gift. Once the gift is out of your hands, it's not yours to have an intention to anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's tricky, right? It's tricky because it shouldn't have to be. It's tricky. It's like money can be a great thing, but then it can also be like a messed up thing too sometimes, you know.
And how it gets used, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. I've been in situations like that my whole life where I've done it too, you know. So I can't say anything. Like I've been on the other side when I was younger, running a business, and I had family members that would call me from different states and say they needed some cash, and they were like, "Well, I just need 2." You know, like they're scared to tell me what they need. I'm like, "What? 200?" And then, you know, break down crying, "No, 2,000." You know, and it's like, okay, all right, okay, you don't have to cry. Just let me figure it out. Just pay me back when you can. At that moment, when they say okay, it's like, okay, we both realize $2,000 is a little bit of money, right? So try to pay me back when you can. But deep down, man, like I knew I was never going to see it again. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I knew I wasn't going to see it again.
Yep. And those are the moments when you go into it trusting, and you may not see it from them, but there's also a weird energetic in giving and receiving that if you give it with the fear or the belief that I'll never see it again, you're blocking the reception of it to come back from you and to you in different ways. But if you give it from the heart of, you know what, I got it. It might be a strain for me to give it, but I have it and I'm offering it to you. It's like it's given from gratitude, and that changes the energetic of the gift and also opens the avenue for it to come back to you in a different way, and possibly even at a higher sum. If think about the basics of in Wicca, it would be the 3-time rule, that anything you do comes back three times over.
Yeah.
There's other theories that say it's 10 times. But if I'm giving from love, and here's this $2,000 going out, if I'm giving it from that place of love and gratitude and saying, I have it and I'm willing to, I know it's going to come back to me, it will come back. It doesn't have to come back from them. It's going to come back in other ways from the universe, 3 to 10 times more.
That's amazing, man. I swear, like some of the stuff you're saying to me is exactly, this happens on the show a lot. I think if you guys go out and do a radio show, you'll see that it happened to you a lot. I'm talking about this stuff like today, you know, the day of, and now I'm getting answers with like the guest that I have on that night. That's crazy. Yeah. So it's another energy thing, right? It's just like the attachments that we put into that energy, you know, but where it gets tricky is this ego thing is, I think we just got to be careful. We have to learn to appreciate things properly and then give without expectation, or I would say even loan without expectation, or at least some practical expectation if we're going to do that. And just know everything's going to come back, because you're right. It's like, well, if I'm going to, I get resentful about it, then it's definitely not going to come back. And it's going to feel like you're just wasted everything. And then it's going to be worse. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And even in that moment of the request and before the gift is given, tuning into the intuition, saying, I don't think I'm ever going to see this back. And in the intuition, making the choice of, is this a good thing for me to do or not at this moment in time? Am I serving them, and am I serving myself to the best of both of us? Yeah, they may need that $2,000 right in this moment as a short-term fix, but is the best thing, and we don't know, is the best thing for them to find another way through it, rather than learning that every time they need $2,000, they can just pick up the phone and say, hey, yo, Joe.
That's what happened back in the day, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but it was, that person also knew that I loved them too. And I don't mind doing it for the people I love, but it's weird, like when you love somebody else and you see other people doing that to them. Right. People in their direct family and stuff. And you're like, oh my God, we just like rob energy from each other and just cause pain in so many ways. It's crazy, because we're unaware of our own selves and what we're doing to each other, instead of taking responsibility for our own selves. A lot of times, all this is about personal responsibility. 100%.
Absolutely.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that scary?
It's scary and it's empowering too.
Yeah, that moment you realize, like, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm not a victim at all. At all. I'm responsible for all of this in a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's empowering, but holy crap. Like, I can't even, like, keep my mind. Just, how do I stop my mind from thinking about all this stuff? And now you're telling yourself, like, man, I got to be careful about what I think about. I got to be careful about what I feel. And it's just like, that's a part of growing up, I think. A part of being spiritual, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, expanding into that space where we are beyond the limits of our ego and that thing that tells us we are less than, which is all learned, and getting back to who we are as a soul being that is divinely connected and truly lives in the space of pure potentiality of whatever we want to create and be open to. And that's really the scary place to be, because that means there's no limits.
Two big questions before I let you go here that I've got some really big questions about this stuff, because you wrote a book about, well, tell us about your other book too. Just the I don't want to just focus on this one book. Sorry about that.
Sure. The second one is, both were written with my co-author, Orisha Iris Turner, who's a shaman in British Columbia. And the second one is called A Pessimist's Guide to Manifesting. And the title comes from the interaction that most people have with particularly law of attraction after that certain first book came out about that. The title will remain a secret, and I'll leave it at that. That they think they read that book and thought, oh, if I just wish for it, it'll happen. No, it won't. You have to take action. You have to believe that it will happen. There's all these things that have to be clear, that it doesn't just magically appear. So the idea that, it didn't work for me, that means law of attraction is a bunch of crap and it's not going to work. That's the energetic that causes the block. So that this pessimistic thing that these laws are a bunch of crap and they don't work, you get what you focus on. And how we tend to come into the laws of creating and manifesting as pessimists, thinking they won't work. And then in each chapter of the book, as we do a deep dive into the 21 laws of manifesting, how do we come at them, and then how do we align into them so that things start firing on all cylinders?
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, cool. All right, so two big questions while I got you. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I got to do it quick, too. One, do you believe certain people have a thing called luck? The reason why I ask that is I've seen some people that have extremely pessimistic views on lots of things in their lives, yet it seems to be that when it comes to manifesting material things, it just happens, and it happens in big ways.
I think we can put the word luck on it, but somewhere deep inside them, they are aligned into that thing happening. So I don't know that I would call it luck. They are just tuned in, and it happens.
Awesome. Okay. They're just tuned in. Like, I'm just wondering, because certain people think they're cursed. Like, I'll never be able to manifest like this other person can. And yet, you know what I have noticed about those people, that they'll tell you, I just happen to have this in my life. It just happens for me. I don't know why. Like, they really believe that. And that's the narrative, right?
Exactly.
Is there a way, like, I guess my second question would be, is there a way that we can actually perform, I know this is going to sound weird, the placebo on ourselves? Let's say, if we could figure that out, how powerful would that be?
I think there is a space for that, and that's where Dispenza gets into a lot of his work, and even Bruce Lipton in his talk on the biology of belief, that yes, there is a space where whether we do it on ourselves or whether we have someone to help facilitate it, I think there is a huge space of physical healing from a mental, spiritual, energetic space.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because that's, to me, that's where the power is, right? And then
it's all energy.
Yeah. Last question, I guess, since I got just a little bit of time, a couple minutes. When you ask for something or want to manifest something, the act of letting it go seems to be the hard part. And when I say let go, I mean I want something to happen, but the act of wanting causes me the reality of wanting, so I have to truly let it go. Well, how do we let things go that we desire the most in our lives. That's tough, right?
That becomes a trust in the universe or whomever we are asking to bring it to our lives, that here's this infinite energy, this infinite being, and have said, I would like to receive this thing. And just trusting that it'll show up when it's supposed to show up, and believing that it may show up differently than I expect. I may put out there that I want a black Lamborghini, and instead a red Ferrari shows up. Okay, Italian supercar works for me. I don't have to be attached to the details. Details are just one level, but we get in our way with the ego thinking it's got to be by a certain time. Well, maybe it's not supposed to be there at that certain time. Let it go. You've asked for it. God got the order, and sometimes good cooking takes time.
In between lives, stuff like that, where you talk to people in between lives. We have listeners here that often wonder, why was I born with this disability, this situation, these types of things? How could I choose to suffer in this lifetime? You ever got any answers through any of your sessions on that?
Sometimes it's a balancing from a previous, and sometimes it's a matter of a lesson to overcome in this one. And then taking it from the victim mentality into, there's going to be a gift in that suffering as well. That sounds really hard to say, sounds really weird to say, but there's a gift behind it as well. And what's the thing to overcome?
Man, you got this down, right? I think
I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Talking to enough people, getting involved. That's why I want to do it too. Getting involved with the subconscious, really learning about it. Like, it really teaches you a lot. And listen, tell us real quick where we can find you. Like, what do you offer on your website? How to get your services? We got like a minute and a half to do so it's all yours.
Yeah, you can find me at danielolexa.com. That's Olexa. I've got some free recording up there right now that is designed to help shed stress and negativity, and also protect from outside negativity, which is all around us, particularly in social media and media these days, to kind of stay centered in our core, that we can be clear-minded and mindful in the present. All my services are listed there, hypnotherapy and coaching. I'm a soul connection coach, getting people back to that awareness of who they truly are versus the story that they say. I also do public speaking, and am currently getting prepared to do a soul purpose retreat in Peru in December, where we're going to remove those blocks that have been getting in the way of you living your soul purpose in this life.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you again for coming on Lighting the Void. It was really cool having you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Guys, I'll leave all the links there. I think you should use this anytime we talk about the subconscious. We got to roll out of here. The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gables coming up next. See you guys tomorrow night. Good night.